everyone, welcome back to A Little Literary Love. My name is Shelby. I'm glad you all are with me. Today's video is going to be another wrap-up video. We are going to be doing my May mid-month wrap-up. So I have a lot of books to talk about in this one. I think I read about 7 books in the first half of May, so I did really good for the first half of May. Housekeeping, I did get a little new microphone thing. So we're going to try it out and see how it works. I'm kind of iffy on it because I move around a lot, so I'm worried that it's going to pick up on that, or just like getting this right so that you all can hear me. So, but I've had people mention in the comments after some of my videos that the sound quality is not always the best in my videos. So I got this. Like I said, we're going to try it out. You will let me know if you like this better than what I was doing before. And yeah, but I feel like I sound weird. I have some tea sitting next to me that I'll probably be drinking throughout, because I have a little bit of like a seasonal allergy cold kind of thing going on. It's starting to get a little bit better, but I still have like the sniffles and coughing a little bit. So anyway, but yeah, so that's what's been going on. But we're gonna get right into the books that I read. I had a lot of really good books that I read. I did read 4 books for the Mafia Romance Readathon, which I did do like a bonus video for you all. I made a vlog for that, and I'll link it up in the cards. So we're going to get right into all the books that I read. So the first one is going to be Hail Mary by Candy Steiner. This is the 4th book in the Red Zone Rivals series, which was the last book of the series, but now she is coming out with one more book, I think, in this series. So this is a football romance. This is a somewhat second chance hate to love story. So our main female character, Mary, she lives next door to a bunch of like football players, and she hates football players, specifically one of them, but then by association she hates all other football players. So Leo also lives across the street from her. She hates Leo, and we come to find out that she actually has a past with Leo. She went to high school with him, and she formed a bond, like a friendship with him through gaming online. And then when she had gone to confront him and like tell him like who she was, he shot her down completely. And he was also part of like groups that bullied her in high school, so she does not like him whatsoever. But then she has some stuff happen at her apartment, like I think some things like leak, and then there's like mold, so she can't live at her apartment at the moment. So she needs a place to stay, and they invite her to stay with them because they have an extra room, because their other roommate, who was the main male character in the book 3, he left and is now in like the draft in the NFL. So they have an extra room for the time being over the summer until school starts again. And they will get another like teammate in the house with them. So this is forcing her to confront Leo. And Leo doesn't really know why she doesn't like him. He does not realize who she is and what happened. So there's a lot of like forced proximity stuff going on, and they kind of rekindle things from when they were teenagers, and they start a romance. So this was probably my least favorite out of the series, if I'm going to be honest. I only gave this one 3.5 stars. Steam on this is very high, which I did appreciate, but I really didn't care for Leo's character. He's very sweet in some aspects, and he does try to grovel towards Mary and make up for some of the things that he has done in the past. But there's just certain things, like the way he thinks and some of the things that he did, that I was just very not okay with, especially with Mary having a past with bullying. I really didn't like it. I didn't like this romance. Like, it was like my least favorite out of the books from this series. There's a ton of miscommunication in this one as well, and miscommunication is one of my least favorite like tropes or things that authors do in their books. So I just was kind of meh on this one. It was not my favorite. Then I read Sing Me to Sleep by R.M. Virtues. This is a novella. it's kind of hard to pinpoint if this is like a romance, like a paranormal romance. I've also seen things tagged that it's like an erotic horror. I was going into this expecting it to be more erotic horror. So I'll get into what it is. So this is about this girl. She is having trouble sleeping because there was a very traumatic break-in in her house when her and her dad were in their house, and her father was killed. She didn't get, and nothing was done to her. She had no harm, but it's just the fact that this happened when she was in her house. So she has a lot of PTSD going on with this. And so she finally ends up taking like a sleeping pill and then doing like some marijuana to try to help her with sleeping. And so she does finally sleep, but then she enters into this like sleep paralysis, and she can't move in her dreams and or feel like she's moving when she's like not in her dreams. And she ends up encountering this demon in her dreams, and she can't move, but then this demon ends up liking her and wanting to have sexy times with her. So they start to have some like sexy times together. Um, so I ended up giving this one 3.5 stars. I thought this was an interesting premise. It was very interesting. And again, I went into this expecting it to be more erotic horror. I was not honestly as scared as I thought I was going to be. Um, it didn't really, that horror aspect of it just didn't really hit its mark for me. Again, so I thought this was an interesting premise. I liked the storyline between our female main character and this like male demon character that we have, and I think they eventually like fall in love. To me, that was very insta love, insta lust, which I was like met on. What lost me, we started to get the demon's point of view in this one, and like we get more points about like his world and stuff that's going on in like the demon realm, and that lost me. I was very confused by that. It didn't feel like it made a whole lot of sense in this storyline and scenario. I kind of wish it had just been left with this human woman falling asleep and there's this demon that comes to her and wants to have sex. I wish it was just kind of left at that. Because that would have been totally fine, and I would have enjoyed it. Steam on this is very high. Lots of trigger warnings with this one. So it was okay. Um, then I read The Viscount Made Me Do It by Diana Quincy. I have had this on my list for a while to read, that I've been meaning to. It takes me so long to read physical copies of books. I'm working on it. It was one of my goals. So I read this one. This is a historical romance. This is about our hero of this story. He is kind of investigating, like his parents were murdered when he was younger, and all of society thinks that he was the one that did it. He did not. So he is trying to investigate their murder, and his investigation kind of leads him back to our female main character of the story. He finds out that she has a necklace that was his mother's. So he finds out that she is a bone setter, which kind of reminds me a little bit of like chiropractors almost in modern day. She helps to like put like joints back in place and helps with like bone alignment kind of stuff. So she's not taken seriously in the medical field. So he decides to go to her. He has these like he has an arm that was like broken, like arm and like several like parts of his arm that were broken, and they weren't set correctly and healed correctly. So he decides to go to her to see what she's like and try to confront her about his mother's necklace. Then he finds out that she's not a quack like everybody thinks she is, and she actually heals him, and he's very fascinated by her and wants to know more about her. But then in the meantime, he kind of inadvertently causes her some problems because I can't remember if it's his uncle or if it's his cousin, who became his like main caretaker after his parents died, is the head of a local hospital that is trying to shut her business down. So he's like trying to help her out with it, but then he ends up causing like more problems for her, and she ends up having to go in front of this like medical council board, whatever, to like plead her case. Anyway, so I ended up giving this one 4 stars. The romance aspect of this was much lighter than I would actually consider for a romance. This honestly actually read more like a like women's fiction slash like historical book, or historical fiction book, or slash like mystery book. The romance kind of takes a little bit of a back seat in this. So I've seen reviews where people didn't like this one as much because of that, which I totally get it, because this is marketed as a historical romance, and to have the romance part be kind of like the back burner. But I really liked the characters in this, and I really liked the plot of this, the mystery that we're trying to solve throughout this book, and it really kept me going throughout this story. So I really enjoyed this one. I mean, I would have liked the romance to be a little bit more prevalent throughout this, and if it had been, I may have given this a higher rating, but even then, again, I gave it 4 stars, so I did really enjoy this one. This is also a Palestinian author, if you were not aware, so definitely go and support her and support other Palestinian authors out there. So that's another reason why I picked this up. So very happy that I read this. And then she does have a lot of, because our female main character is Arab, so she does have a lot of their the culture in this book, so I did really appreciate that. I liked getting to learn about that. Okay, so then we're moving on to the books that I read for the Mafia Romance Readathon. So the first one is going to be Dark Oz by Geneva Monroe. So this is a Wizard of Oz retelling, a modern day Wizard of Oz retelling in kind of like a mafia-esque atmosphere. We have Thea, and she is sold by her Aunt Em to West Easton or Weston Witcher. I don't remember. One of the Wicked Witches, because she turned a certain age, and her dead parents' money now comes to her, and her aunt does not like this and wants to keep it for herself. So she sells her off and to basically be killed so that her aunt can get her money. So this backfires because when Thea arrives where she's supposed to arrive, she ends up like pretty quickly killing one of the witches. I don't remember. And then she ends up running into the characters that are supposed to be the lion, the Tin Man, and the Scarecrow. Sorry, I'm totally blanking on all of these characters. And they get told that they need to find the wizard, and he will give them information to help them bring down all these different syndicates, because Oz was apparently used to be run by and ruled over by her parents. So she's kind of like a princess, sort of. And then her parents were killed, and so Oz was broken up into these different sectors, and so they're going to find the wizard so that they can try to shut down all these different sectors and rule Oz. Um, so I give this one 3 stars. It was okay. It was not my favorite, to be honest. I thought the plot was kind of convoluted. It was honestly kind of boring as well, with all this stuff going on. Not a lot happened in this book. It's the first of, I think this is supposed to be a trilogy, so I can understand like the author was trying to like string things out, but it just felt really boring. Like they were just a lot of too many stagnant moments in this book. I felt like they should have been like where they're supposed to be on the run and they're trying to find this wizard. I thought there would be more like traveling and like journeying in this, and there was not. There was most of the stuff happened while they were in like a safe house, and then nothing else. And then a lot of the sexy times that were happening between the characters didn't really make sense to me, because especially Thea is very badly injured for most of it. So her being injured and then they're all immediately like super, it was very insta-lust too, super attracted to each other and wanting to have the at least sexy times just didn't really make sense to me. I also kind of felt like the author, like we get all of the different point of views from the main girl and her harem of men. And I felt like all the men were basically the same character. There wasn't a whole lot of like differences between them, so I kept getting all of them mixed up. So yeah, I don't know. I wasn't a fan of this one. It was not my favorite. Then I read When She Unravels, which is the first book in the Fallen series by Gabriel Sands. So this one, our female main character has already been in an arranged marriage to her husband. She's married, and she ends up running away from her husband. So her husband, I think, is like an enforcer or something in the mafia. Her father is like the Don of the Italian mafia, I think in like New York area. And so her husband, one night when she comes home, her husband has this woman in their basement, and you find out that her husband makes her torture people that he has captured and kill them. And so she's very traumatized by all of this, obviously. And she sees this woman who is maybe 18, and she's pleading for her life, and she decides that she can't take it anymore, and she lets this woman go, and she also decides to escape with her, and she ends up landing in Ibiza, and she has nothing to her name, and she's like, I gotta get a job, I need to live, I need to try to escape my husband and my past and mafia and all of that. So she ends up getting a job at a nightclub in Ibiza, and she catches the attention of the owner of this club. So we get a little bit of like boss employee kind of romance going on. They definitely have a lot of chemistry together. But then you kind of find out that, she was escaping from this mafia past only to run into it again because her boss is also in the mafia. She does not know this, but he is, and has a connection to her and her family slash husband. So things kind of very rapidly happen from there. So I gave this one 4 stars. I thought this book was absolutely thrilling. I could not put it down. I just wanted to keep reading it and to find out what happened next. I loved the chemistry between the main male character and female character of the story. It was off the charts, especially when they got together, and then finding out some of like the twists and turns in the story. It was just absolutely captivating, and I cannot wait to read the second book of the series. I think this is a 3 or 4 book series. I do plan on continuing on. Steam on this was very high, and I really enjoyed this one. Then I read Painted Scars by Neva Altaj. This is the first book of the Perfectly Imperfect series. So this is an arranged marriage mafia story. Our male main character is the Pakin of the Russian mafia, and he has been injured. And he has to get around in a wheelchair. Sometimes he can use crutches. Most of the time he has to get around in a wheelchair at the moment. And this is kind of viewed as, since he's the Pakin and he's supposed to be the strength of the Russian Bratva, this is kind of viewed as a weakness for him. He's also expected to have a wife. Like the Pakin is just expected to be married, and he is not. So his like people that kind of advise him or whatever tell him that he should get married because this will help to restore like faith in him, and help him like with his strength, whatever. So he ends up blackmailing somebody that he ends up blackmailing our female main character, because her father ended up getting into a lot of debt with him. And he's like, hey, if you don't marry me, then I might kill your father because he owes me a lot of money. And she's like, okay, definitely like a mafia kind of scenario. So she ends up getting married to him, and this is honestly one of the cutest, like, this story, like, their romance was so adorable to me. I loved their romance story. um she has a past traumas that she's working through because she was assaulted at one point. um Nothing, like, no on page things with it. It's just mentioned that it happened to her in the past. So she is gets into like a panic if she's around tall men. So he's very accommodating towards her and makes her feel very comfortable. But then he also has a lot of misconceptions about, or misconceptions and his perception of himself because he is now disabled. And her view of him, she's like, you're super hot. I don't care about you being in a wheelchair. I'm attracted to you. Um, so they help each other out with kind of their things that they're working on. And it was just, I don't know, I just thought this was adorable. I gave it 4 stars. I flew through this one. It was very quick. It's like less than 250 pages, around that mark. So it was very quick read. And I like this one. It was really good. And then the last book that I read for the first half of May, which is the last book that I was able to get in for the Mafia Romance Readathon, is going to be Rhapsody. This is the first book in the Butcher and the Violinist. I think this is a duet by Kenya Wright. So this is another BIPOC author. This is about our female main character. She loses her job. She was a violinist in the opera, and then the opera was shut down. So she's looking for a job because she needs to pay her bills. And her aunt owns this, like, it's kind of like a burlesque kind of club, and her aunt gives her a job working at this club playing the violin for the people that come in. And she ends up catching the eye of this mafia guy. He's known as the Butcher, so people keep telling her that she needs to stay away from him, that he's dangerous, he's bad news. But she can't help but be intrigued by him. He is in the French Mafia, so I thought that was intriguing because I have not read anything with French Mafia in it. And he makes her a deal. He wants to be with her, but he doesn't want any kind of emotions to play into their relationship. And he wants 30 days with her, and he'll give her like a ton of money for this. So she's broke, so she ends up giving in because, one, she finds him hella attractive, like very attracted to this man. And two, she's super broke and she needs the money. So they get into this relationship, and then you get his point of view. And his point of view is quite interesting. You find out that he basically started a war for her, and that he has stalked her and been obsessed with her for like years before she ended up meeting him. So I gave this one 4 stars. I really enjoyed this one overall. I did feel like this book went on longer than I feel like it probably should have. It was very drawn out, and I don't know if necessarily if I will continue on to read the second book of this duet. But what I did read was very good. Their romance, like, it was one of the most sensual and passionate romances that I have read. It was so good. At one point, like near the end, and this, I mean, it's not spoilery because, I mean, they're banging throughout of this whole book. They end up having sex on the Eiffel Tower, and I was just like, how like romantic is that? And especially the whole fact that he started a war for her, that he could be with her. I was just like, damn, damn, where can I find me a man like that? Even though I don't necessarily want a mafia man, but still, like that was just absolutely incredible. So I thoroughly enjoyed that one. But yeah, so that is going to be all the books that I read in the first half of May. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a thumbs up button, and subscribe if you haven't already. I mean, if you haven't, what are you doing with your life? um, leave a comment down below with some of your favorite books that you've read so far in May. I am continuing on with a lot of these series that I started with the Mafia Romance Readathon, and I'm very excited about a lot of the other books that I'm continuing to read in May. So stay tuned for when I post my end of May wrap up. But yeah, I'm rambling, so I'm gonna quit. And I'm going to end this video, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye, guys.